This channel is supported by TrueFire. TrueFire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses.
So what we know is that over 10 years ago now, the Line 6 team started designing what would become the Line 6 Helix. Now, we don't know for sure that there's anything coming anytime soon. Yeah, I don't know anything that you don't know in regards to that. It's just a video just talking about sort of size, form factor and that sort of stuff, and whether we can imagine a world where the Helix is smaller than it is. So the Helix, I think at the moment, is probably the biggest of the modern modelers, even if it isn't as modern as the most modern ones. I think it looks amazing, and I think when you've actually got it on stage, this to me is pretty much perfect. You've got good spacing between the switches, you've got these scribble strips, and not only that, you've also got the color coding on the capacitive touch foot switches. Also, the screen's pretty useful, pretty decent size and bright, but in terms of getting it around, it is kind of bulky compared to something like the Strobe Vortex from Neural DSP. Now, the Neural DSP Quad Cortex is actually very similar to a Helix in quite a few ways. First of all, the interface and the way the screen actually looks, and the way the signal chain is represented is too close to be a coincidence. Also, connectivity on the back, you've got some similarities with like the send and returns kind of being clumped up like this. It kind of is proof of concept that you could have like a mini full powered Helix and it be useful, right? Because this is essentially more powerful than a Helix in a lot of ways. So you're not sacrificing power. The only thing that really it does sacrifice in some ways, the scribble strips I miss, and also these switches vertically are quite close. So I think the Quad Cortex is almost like close, but I hear a lot of people say as well these switches are too close together for them. So maybe this is a step too far for some people in terms of being like the perfect gigging size. The most recent floor modeler, the FM9, I think, again, this isn't meaningfully smaller than a Helix enough, I think, for it to be an obvious way forward. You get loads of connectivity along the back, but the foot switches are spaced quite spaciously, and you've obviously got less than on the Helix, and a smaller screen than on the Helix, and a smaller screen than the Quad Cortex. However, it is a little bit smaller than the Helix, and a little bit lighter. And I guess when we are talking about sizes here, that it's quite a bit smaller really, probably like 75% the size. But if a Helix was this size, would it be much different? The answer is probably no. Boss GX100 actually, I think, is almost as powerful as a Helix, nearly. This is, I think, quite a nice compact size, and you know, this is the sort of thing that you could put in a gig bag or in a suitcase or something. Again, not quite as small as the Quad Cortex, not as many switches, is there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11. However, they pack quite a lot into that small rugged unit. I think that's quite a nice form factor, but I think Line 6 have already done something which is wildly efficient. The HX effects. Now, this, obviously, we're lacking any screen, but this, the foot switching, I think, is pretty much spot on, I think. So this is the same distance as on the Helix. You've also got, you know, scribble strips and color coding. You've got some controls, but I think maybe the future Helix might even be something that is possibly touchscreen. That might be the way they go, you might imagine. On the back, you've got quite a lot of connectivity. Could you imagine something that size that was full Helix powered, or even, you know, a bit bigger? It might have to be a bit squarer if you had like the screen on top. Something that size maybe. In terms of foot switching, I think that would be a really nice little compromise. If you wanted like full Helix power, but on a smaller board, that could be a thing. And I've seen other mock-ups where people just kind of shave off this side with the expression pedal, and then that leaves you, I think, quite a nicely sized unit. It's difficult because I do think they really did nail it in terms of once it's on the floor and on a stage, it's kind of really great to use. But getting it to a gig, particularly if it was a fly gig or something like that, or someone who has to travel around using planes, trains, that sort of thing, I think it could be a little bit difficult for them. Then there's for me, I don't need all of this connectivity for most gigs, you know, so I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you imagine that there could be a smaller realization of that? I imagine there could be. Could you just miniaturize that thing in general? Would you need a touch screen? I think the foot switching distance you'd want to keep identical, probably, because that to me is kind of perfect. Go half size and stick a screen on the top of that. Probably look a bit silly. I don't know. What do you reckon's coming next? I'd like to know your thoughts as well. So let me know what you reckon, which has the best form factor for you. Is it the Quad Cortex, FM9, Helix? Would you want a smaller Helix or not? Were you happy with it as it is? I'd like to know your thoughts. Cheers for now.
Would you want a smaller Helix or not? Were you happy with it as it is? I'd like to know your thoughts. Cheers for now.